Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of the Just Tiltum podcast. I am Matheus, and I am joined by my ever entertaining co hosts, Harry and Cantos.
What's up?
Hey,
And we are going to be discussing all things TSM this week. The great week we had in Smash, the eyebrow raising week that we had for League, and everything coming up, including the, I'll say, dreaded games against C9 and FlyQuest with the way TSM is performing. But to kind of kick things off, just to make this a kind of a positive sandwich, we're going to start out with something very good. TSM's performance this week in Smash Bros. Was pretty good. Kantos and I are the resident Smash Bros. Experts or fans, as it were. We'll kind of be going back and forth about Leffen and Zero's performances in their respective tournaments this week, and we'll go ahead and get started with LAN ETS with Leffen in the Melee singles. So, for those of you out there who don't watch Smash Bros, Leffen is, I personally consider him at least approaching the tier of God of Smash. He's one of the most consistent players to play the game. He's one of the few players who wasn't a part of that original quintet of amazing players that never lost tournaments, who has consistently beaten, at some point in time, every other member of the gods of Smash. I mean, recently Armada's leveled up to a whole different form of Smash player. And he's been destroying everything that he touches, but Leffen is never more than a half step behind along with the other gods of Smash that we see frequently, Mango, Mewtwo King. But this week, LAN ETS, Leffen took first place, which is always good. And he took it against Kirby Kaze. Kantos, you want to kind of walk us through the grand finals match?
yeah, it was the finals match for that one was pretty straightforward. Leffen 3-0'd Kirby Kaze, kind of swept him. It was pretty decisive in that sense. He played his classic Fox, and kind of again he just kind of swept the competition in that sense. It was a really good game for Leffen. Kirby Kaze's good. He's a really good player, but obviously our boy Leffen kind of went off. So it was a fun and interesting match. So yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And for those who didn't get a chance to actually watch the match, Kirby Kaze was actually playing Sheik, if I'm correct.
Yeah.
And Sheik is in the to kind of take a step back and kind of break the game down for people who don't currently watch it, because Melee is like a 15-year-old game at this point, something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
So in Melee, since it's such a heavily figured out game, there's a very clear top tier of characters, and it consists of 4, maybe 5 people at any given time. One of the best character by a lot of people's standard in the game is Fox. His movement options are great. His edge guarding is great. His shine spiking, his ability to apply pressure both on and off the stage, and his ability to recover are well above what most of the cast has to offer. Sheik's recovery can be questionable, depending on how someone chooses to edge guard it, but her on-stage pressure is always phenomenal because she's such a fast character. But we still haven't seen a whole lot of Sheik in recent years with a lot of the Melee tournaments. So Kirby Kaze actually had a very strong performance. Don't let Leffen essentially sweeping him under the rug. Don't let that give the impression that Kirby Kaze isn't a strong player. He obviously he's a very strong player, and I'm sure that we'll be seeing more of him in the future. But I mean, like Kanto said, our boy Leffen, he came through to do his thing. He's probably warming up for B7 coming up.
Yeah.
So apologies to Kirby Kaze.
It was a 3-1. If I said 3-0, I don't know why, but it was a 3-1. Yeah, it was Fox every time. Leffen had really strong performances, pretty much the first 2 games, and then the one game there, the match that he lost against Kirby Kaze was super close. It was like a 1-1 stock, as opposed to the second match, which was Leffen still had all 3 stocks and swept him. So yeah, it was definitely close, but to be fair, LAN ETS was kind of a low name. I think the only big name here was maybe Larry Lurr. Other than that, it was a pretty low profile group. Obviously, Kirby Kaze is a great player, and we had some other good ones as Ryan Ford and Kage and stuff like that. But nobody like huge, none of the gods, anything like that. So it was still a fun tournament to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll take that opportunity to go ahead and segue over to Smash for Wii U, where Zero, who is seems to be back in form in terms of his tournament dominating streak, played at 2GGC Midwest, and he has been looking truthfully terrifying on Diddy Kong. Diddy Kong's a character in Smash that's gone through a lot of changes. You know, initially we had the fan favorite Hoo Ha, where he would up throw you, up air you, and it had so much power as a move, knockback, which would send a character up and off the stage for a KO as it was, which would take a stock. Again, for those who aren't versed in Smash, you know, whatever. That's been nerfed, that's been changed. But Zero stuck with the character. He's the Diddy Kong expert, in my opinion, and he showed it this week. He had the grand finals against Tweak. He 3-0'd him clean.
Yeah.
From watching it, I don't think Zero was ever out of control of that match. It didn't seem like he was. He had a game plan and he executed it. Tweak played Cloud in the first two matches, and then he switched over to his Donkey Kong. But I don't know, Kantos. Do you think Zero is gonna keep up this streak of tournament dominance? Because I don't know. He's looking better to me than he looked in the past when he went on that now historic run of not dropping a tournament win for several months, almost a year, I believe.
Yeah, he looked really strong. He really only dropped games, and I got confused again. I said Larry Lurr was in the Melee. He was in this one. He was in the 2GGC, and I think he only dropped games to Larry Lurr, and I think he dropped 2 to Larry Lurr and then 1 to Tweak. Other than that, he clean swept pretty much everybody else here. So really strong performance by Zero. We saw him kind of dip not too long ago and not show as much performance as he really wanted to. But in Genesis and things like that in his own tournament, he's really been showing more of that strength of him being that best Wii U Smash player in the world, and we saw it here. He again, it was a pretty dominating victory that he had almost over everybody that he played against this week. So I'm really excited, and I'm hoping he can kind of keep that form. Nobody really comes close to his Diddy Kong, but his Sheik is still really strong. It's still really a very comfortable pick for him. I don't know. I'm definitely excited to see more of Zero winning.
Yeah, I agree. And as if Zero happens to somehow hear this podcast, I'll definitely tweet it out to him every day for the next couple days to see if I can get his opinion on it. I know one of his personal favorites is Shulk. Shulk is my personal favorite character. He is nowhere near viable at a high level of tournament competitive play, but I'd love to see him pull it out for one set where he's already winning.
That'd be fun.
Yeah, where he's already 2-0 on the guy. Let's pull out Shulk and see what Shulk can do, because Shulk needs some love, in my opinion. Shulk and Roy, those are my two Smash Wii U characters. Just a personal side note. In other 2GGC news, Zero played in Wii U doubles as well. Tied for 7th. He was playing with 6WX. They got 2-0'd by JK and I'm Hip. Doubles, I don't think, has ever really been Zero's strong suit. Whenever he's placed extremely well with doubles, he's always played with another phenomenal Wii U player. Not saying that 6WX isn't a phenomenal Wii U player, but I mean, we're talking about, the Nairos and the allies and stuff, where it's almost like your chances of winning are very, very low to begin with, because these guys could probably, beat you by themselves 1v2. So since there's 2 of them, they're working together, it could be a wrap. So didn't do too hot in the doubles, but he did take first place in the singles, and his tournament streak of taking first place wins continues. And with all that being said, it's time for the highlight of the show, where we discuss TSM's league team and the, in my opinion, overall disappointing weekend that we had. I mean, we had strong games against Envy. We 2-0'd them. It's our first 2-0 of the season, but it's against Envy. And then we had the Echo Fox series, which we'll be sure to get into a little later in the podcast. We'll be joined by Havoc, where we'll be looking forward to the FlyQuest versus C9 series and seeing if TSM has a prayer for standing up to what look to be the 2 strongest teams in North America currently. So, Kantos, Harry, if you're both ready, we'll go ahead and hop right into TSM versus NV. So, game 1, Harry, you want to walk us through the picks and bans for game one?
Um. Okay. Let me. Wow. I don't have it pulled up. Wait. Give me 1 second. All right. So, for game one, TSM, I think this weekend was the week of Ivern
Hmm.
specifically. And TSM decided, I think, that Ivern was their third highest priority jungler behind the obvious ones, Rengar and Kha'Zix, their slow king, but Ivern, pretty solid third right now. And what this champion does, and what this champion brings to the team in general, is it's just such a strong clearing champion and such a strong mid-game fighting champion. And I think that's what this team comp in general was going for, was just mid-game team fighting and or getting picks. But this pick really worked out because Sven Skaren got a really, frankly, random double kill in the mid lane where Envy overextended for no reason, and then they got killed by a freaking tree. Um, and then yeah, and then Ivern really had control of the jungle over Lyra, and any like that. I think Envy's one of their very few win conditions is probably Lyra getting super far ahead and trying to carry the game, which he's barely capable of doing in my opinion, but he can do it sometimes. Um, and so it felt like after that, Envy's mid game doesn't deserve to be mentioned, and TSM won the game in like 23 minutes. So
Yeah.
in my opinion, there isn't a lot to say about this game. It's nice that TSM were able to close it out so quickly with the Baron. It was a decisive call, but Envy's shot calling in the mid game, I, it's so bad. It's so bad. Like everything they do in the mid game is just awful. They're a prime example of a team that you just shouldn't do anything they do in the mid game. Everything they do is wrong. Like I don't think I've seen a good like I saw like one good mid game play in all the games I've watched with Envy. So yeah, they're just a mess of a mid-game team. They randomly get caught out. We get Baron, and then we just end the game because they roll over. And I think that's just kind of game one. I don't think it gets a lot deeper than that, in my honest opinion.
Yeah, and I'd agree. I mean, Bjergsen got Jace this game. I think he had a pretty solid performance on Jace. I mean, of course, lethality is out of this world strong right now. You build a few lethality items and people just start getting deleted. It's almost like they brought back Black Cleaver or something. But it's yeah, I think game one is was a bit of a rollover game. That double kill in the mid lane from Sven was hilarious to me because there's almost no situation where Sven Sierra should have killed both of them, but it's
No,
in.
that was a complete utter mistake by Envy.
Yeah.
It wasn't. I'm not even gonna. I hate to say it, but I thought Sven Skaren did a good job controlling the jungle against Lyra after that. I took advantage of it, but that was so free. It was so free. I don't know. Like it felt like a good win, but it was against a really, really bad performance. So we'll take. We edited it out as cleanly as we could. We played it decently well, but I mean it's. I think most teams in the league would have done this pretty much the exact same way.
Yeah, I agree. So moving right along to game two, as we said, we 2-0'd NB this week, so obviously we won game two. Some picks of note: we had Hunter on Shin again, and Biofrost on Misfortune, which was he clicked the buttons and he pressed the things. But Hunter on Shin and Kantos, I want to talk with you about this one. He's Hunter played a very solid Shin last season, and it seems like this season the taunt is no longer his friend. I'm not sure why, and I'm curious about what your opinion on is why. But I haven't really felt a truly high impact game from Hunter on Shin in what seems like a very long time.
Yeah, and this is something that I kind of brought up when we were chatting about the games when we were originally watching them. Is the Shen is something that was such a big pick on Haunter, and last season we saw many big plays. We saw the big, that great Baron taunt that changed around an entire fight, and we've seen some amazing taunts coming out of Haunter, and he's so mechanically gifted. We just expect, I guess, so much from the Shen. It maybe isn't like is Maokai level of great, but it is a good pick for Haunter. And because it's obviously a good team pick and it's something that he's comfortable on. But this whole split so far, it seems I've seen more missed taunts than I have landed taunts on Haunter. and
Mhm.
that's a little strange to me. Just again because we saw it's something that we saw really good performances from him, and now we're seeing kind of not that great of performances from him. Um, so he's still playing the team game fine, but his taunts have just been missing and missing and missing. And I don't know if he's trying to psych out his opponents and he's trying to think two steps ahead when he only needs to be thinking one. Because a lot of his taunts seem to be really predicted. It's not like he's just taunting in a straight line and hoping that they're in it. It seems like he's trying to taunt around the corner and they're not there yet. So I'm not sure if he's kind of psyching himself out for it or if the pressure of it is getting to him. I really couldn't speak on exactly why it's been happening. We've just seen it a lot more. And it's a shame because it's a lot of missed play opportunities for TSM. The taunt on Shen is just so huge in turning around a fight or creating a dive or something like that. And we saw a lot of instances in this game and in some of the others where that missed taunt really just changed a fight for the worse for TSM. We eventually either made it better or it just was a failed fight. But the lack of the taunt definitely kind of broke some of our flow there, and it was just strange to see out of Haunter of all people.
Yeah, I agree,
Yeah.
and I want to see more out of Haunter. Harry, did you want to chime in and contribute anything?
Yeah, so one thing I noticed about this game is both teams were running double teleport. So this was a game of chess of two teams that were novices in the macro game. Both teams, it was, you know, and when you have both teams with double TP, as an ADC, you just say ADC in 2017 lol and get that S already because you're about to get dived. Um, so and that never really happened because Jin never died and Ash only has two deaths. So that's what the teams did take advantage of. TP. Um, and what happened this game? Yes, the Shen taunts hurt. It hurt our playmaking ability, but a really huge there's a really huge mismanagement in our TP usage, and yeah, so it felt like even if we had advantage in terms of like teleport, like if they had our teleports down, we had like a TP up or channeled up, we were never able to take advantage of it for various reasons, whether it be just it seems like we were just not making the call or there was just a miscommunication in the dive, whatever. Nothing really ever came of this, uh, in some sense, triple TP comp if you count the shed ult.
Yeah.
So and so then we fell behind early game because our bot lane actually kind of they didn't get dumpster, but the misfortune pick didn't really pay off. Um, Jace has a pretty good lane into Shen, or sorry, Echo, um, and Lyra had a pretty decent early game. Kennen has a good matchup with the Shen, etc., etc. We lost pressure in lane, so we just kind of lost the early game, and then Envy's mid-game shot calling happened, and we won the game.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, they were able to get one Baron, but and that was pretty much it. They weren't able to secure anything else. They were completely indecisive in everything they did. They have a 1-3-1 comp that they didn't play well at all. Yeah, complete mess of a mid game from Envy, and I won't say this is a good game by TSM. Frankly, I wasn't satisfied by this game. It really didn't feel like we weren't playing our comp the way it should have been played, and this game wasn't won the way it should have been won at all. Um, but also something I want to notice is Apollo's damage this game. And before we started this podcast, I noticed this in the last second. He has under 4K damage dealt in a 40-minute game. That's like he has less than 100 damage per second on an 80 carry. Like just think of that for just a second. If you ever played 80 carry in solo queue, imagine that's like not even autoing a champion once per minute. Like what? Like I mean, I never noticed how useless. I guess I never even noticed the Ashe apparently because I mean when you do 6.3% of your team's damage in a 40-minute game with almost full build, I with 350 CS and not a single kill. You guys say, you know what? Apollo probably didn't play well this game. Um, in
That's
general.
one way to put it.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, and that was probably a pretty big contributor to why they never actually won a team fight. Wild Turtle, on the other hand, went 7-0-2 and did 32% of our team's damage, and he actually almost kind of carried this game in a way. Um, So there was a very large disparity in the AD carry, uh, in the AD carries. But yeah, I felt like Envy's main game was a complete mess. They don't know how to team fight. They don't know how to rotate around objectives. They don't know how to play the map, and they don't know how to do anything in the mid game. And I don't know, Dylan's their coach. I what are you doing? Like, I'm sorry, but at some point, like, I honestly think that if you put like diamond players together, they will at least have like at least they can make decisive calls if you put them in a room together and say, okay, practice for a day and just practice shot calling. I think they could at least make decisive calls if they don't fucking hate each other. But what I'm
It's
getting
just
with
hard to
this
find a
Envy
solo
team
queue.
is I don't think they're even communicating. I think from the Mark Z show, he said he's watching the Dig game and they weren't even communicating half the time. And I'm getting the same sense from this Envy team. I don't know if they're communicating. I don't know if Seraph is even talking to his team anymore by the way he's playing the sidelines. I have no clue, like, if there's any sense of a team dynamic on this team or if it's just like five guys that live in the same house that happen to be on the same team.
Right.
That
Newly
and
realized
not what,
sitcom. Five
yeah, and
guys
that's
in a
what
house.
feels like. Yeah, it feels like Envy are like roommates and they're not a team at all. So I don't know. Envy is a complete and utter mess. Probably. I Who did they beat? Who the fuck did? Who lost to Envy? Team Liquid. Okay. Um,
Team Liquid's gonna
and
be a
that
bit
and
rough
they
as well.
yeah, and they've had massive communication issues too apparently. So yeah, it seems like the bottom half of this league is really bad on the communication side of things, and I think Envy is like one of the most egregious examples in this game. Is I think a pretty huge example of what a bad team does in the mid game when it comes to shot calling.
Yeah, and I'd agree with that. So it is also important to note that Apollo only died twice that game. 4K damage died twice. Big question mark.
Yeah,
Maybe they'll clean it up in the
that
future.
looks like he AFK'd.
Yeah, a
Like
little bit.
actually, like he just left the game.
But so real quick, I want you guys' MVPs for game one, and your MVPs for game two, and then we'll go on to the Echo Fox series, and we'll talk about those series of games. But we'll start with you,
Yeah.
Cantos. MVP for game one. Who do you got?
Well, so for game one, I think Bjergsen's Jace did really, really well, especially since we've had very few high-performing Jace games. A lot of people like to blame some of our lost games on a Jace pick, and that's something that kind of happened with the Echo Fox, and we'll kind of talk about that. But I think Bjergsen played a really good Jace. I think Wild Turtle had a really good showing all weekend. I love Biofrost's Tarek. I just love when he plays it. It's always so good. But I definitely have to give it to the Ivern. I think Ivern is so comfortable. Svenskeren has played it so well. That double kill mid was really nice, and he just kind of kept the whole ball rolling. That game really kind of helped snowball our lead with the Ivern. So I'm gonna probably give it to that Ivern.
All right, and what about you, Harry? Who you got for game one MVP?
I have Ivern as well because of the double kill, and then the pick around Drake was partially caused by Ivern, mostly well, combined with the Jhin and the Jace, of course. And yeah, I think yeah, he's a player of the game, but it's like, well, he happened to be the player of the game because he can actually hit a skill shot. I think anyone could have been the player of the game. This is almost by chance. Svenskeren happened to be the one that pressed Q, but yeah, I give it to Ivern. I think he had the most impact on this game overall.
All right, and what about game two? We'll stick with you, Harry, on this one. Who do you got for game two MVP, where Apollo did not exist?
Okay, so getting to MVP goes to Wild Turtle for not AFKing, for not making it a fair game. Um, and because he went 7-0-2, he did well in team fights, and everyone else just didn't have a very good early game, and that's what they were supposed to be doing. So I just give it to him. If I'm gonna be like, I mean, everyone, I guess Echo's kind of a skilling champion, but it's like, okay, Shen, MF, these are supposed to be like, Shen is supposed to have a huge power spike at level 6 and make plays happen on the map. MF is supposed to crush lane. Neither of those people did that. Sven didn't. He just didn't have a great game. He did okay in team fights, but he just wasn't. He kind of got out juggled by Lyra. Bjergsen just kind of had an off game. His TPs weren't very good. His team fighting was okay. He only died once, but I think 7-0-2, great damage, great positioning the entire game. I think Wild Turtle played the most solid out of everyone on TSM.
All right, sounds good. And what about you, Cantos? Turtle for MVP game two, or somebody else?
Well, Turtle did do really, really well, but I think I'm gonna have to give it to the best TSM member by far this game, and I'm gonna throw
Wow.
a little shade here and say that it was actually Apollo MVP for being the sixth TSM member
Oh my god.
and doing absolutely nothing at all.
6.3%. That was almost Haunster's salary last year, right?
Oh gosh.
6.3 fucking K. No, it was yeah, it was bad. So yeah, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna throw some shade. I'm gonna say Apollo MVP, best
Apollo,
player on
buddy,
TSM.
we love you. Okay,
Oh man.
you look like a decent human being, but please, for the love of God, fucking right-click champions next time you play Ash. I'm begging. Okay, let's move on.
We probably could have used Apollo on Echo Fox in game two. Because we got two
I
of
don't
them,
even think
boys.
he could have lost this game because
Possibly.
that Keith, dude.
Yeah, Keith has not been a shining star of a AD carry. So let's go ahead and dive right into the Echo Fox game. One
We
thing.
have to.
Yes, we have to. So one thing that I do want to discuss is the first pick, both games, on Wild Turtles Varus. We just got done talking about how he had a very strong performance, two back-to-back strong performances on Jin in the NV series, and for some reason we got the Varus in both these games, and I guess I'm really just curious as to why. As of note, Turtle did still have a good weekend overall. I think as good as you can have when being 2-0'd by a team that you probably should realistically beat. He did his 1,000 kills, so I don't know. Maybe we can have some like party sound effects pop out for Turtle.
Air horns.
Yeah, 1,000
I
kills
actually
while
kind of
Turtle.
like that. Oh, I know air horns are annoying as fuck most of the time, but I'll allow it there.
It has been allowed by Harry, and so it shall be. But
I am the fan. Dick. I don't know. I don't know. Whatever. Do what you want.
but yeah, so Turtle did hit 1,000 kills. Unfortunately, we still did not take the series, and he was mysteriously on Varus both games. Kantos, I'm going to you first. Turtle, Varus, question marks? You want to?
The first game going into that, I think the Varus was a good pick to have. I like Varus with Oriana and a Maokai. Obviously, Maokai can really kind of tie somebody down. And then if you just Oriana ult, and then you get that Varus piercing arrow right on top of him, it's really tasty. I really like that a lot. Again, also with his ultimate, it helps tie a lot of people down, change up the fight. You mix that with the Misfortune ult and the Maokai Graves, you can have a lot of good times there. So I think in game one, it wasn't a terrible pick. I'm more curious as to why we first picked it. So Varus, we wanted it for the poke, we wanted it for the pen, we wanted it for the long range damage, but we could also kind of get that from Jin. So I'm not entirely sure why we dove right onto that Varus pick right off the bat. It apparently was something that was really important to Wild Turtle or to TSM in their draft. I'm not entirely sure. But again, I think game one, it wasn't a horrible pick. I was just a little more curious as to why we first picked it right off the bat. Why it was a priority.
I don't want to put you on the spot. Actually, no, never mind. I'm looking at the actual team comp, not the pick order. And I said, wait, it's fourth pick. What is he talking about? Okay, never mind. I'm an idiot.
We always
Yeah,
pick 80
and if-
carry fourth. What are you talking
Yeah.
about?
Okay, never mind. Okay, so Varus first pick. I think this has been becoming more and more common because Varus and Jin are the best 280 carries in the game, bar none. Ash is a distant third right now. And the reason why is because lethality is fucking broken. These champions bring a lot of utility, a lot of reliable utility, more or less, and really dominant laning phase, and won't get absolutely dumpstered by mage support. And the reason why Varus is so high priority is because his Edge of Night and Ghostblade is so good at clearing out the mid lane, even better than Jhin. And that's what really AD carries around the world are kind of relegated to is just okay, clear mid lane, have like Kha'Zix or some other mage in the side lanes, play 1-3-1, and don't die. And that's what AD carries do right now. And so wave clear is just so important, and then utility is also extremely important. Jin's wave clear is not very good. So Varus is therefore the highest priority AD carry because he's a complete package for an AD carry right now. And I don't think it's odd, frankly, that we're first picking Varus. I've seen a lot of other teams do it. It's a very, very high priority pick. Some teams have even started banning it. Um, I don't have a problem with them first picking it. I don't think that's a mistake. And yeah.
Yeah, and I get the I get that it isn't necessarily a mistake. I guess my question comes from uh, to me, like you said, I mean, 80 carries are kind of relegated to, oh god, we're in 2016. I hope we don't die soon.
17.
17. Good grief. Need to get my calendar straight. But yeah, so 80 carries in 2017 is an ongoing joke until Riot decides to switch up their balancing. My questioning with the pick is that we know that Echo Fox has junglers, a strong jungler and a strong mid laner. And I mean, with the performance that Looper showed us on Singed, I mean, I feel like partially he picked it because he wanted to play his skin, but also it's obviously a very solid pick into the Maokai. I guess I just feel like since we know what the power picks are for the 80 carry role, it didn't have to be first pick because if I'm recalling correctly, we've seen TSM deal with the Varus pick before, and I don't know that
Well,
Keith is the kind of 80 carry that we just need to get that Varus out of his hands. Otherwise, bad things are gonna happen. Like Keith doesn't strike me as the kind of 80 carry where we need to power pick our bot lane necessarily. Um, and I think maybe that's where my confusion comes from, where it seemed like we were picking around the bot lane when there were other pressure points on the map that could have possibly been addressed.
um, okay. So you're talking about like jungler, like we didn't pick a jungler instead?
Well, no, I'm just saying, just in general. I just don't think that I don't have a problem with them picking Varus personally. I'm just saying I don't know that it would have been first pick. But at the same time, if teams are at the point of banning it away because it is that complete package, then maybe it is something that TSM feels the need to just go ahead and grab up. Um,
Well, okay. I mean I think we need to look at what else could have TSM picked. There was no point in picking the jungler at this point because Echo Fox had already picked her jungler first, and so there's no point in picking a jungler until the third pick and making sure the jungle pool isn't pinched in the second ban phase. So that's why they picked a jungler third. So no point in picking a jungler. Mid laner, preferably you want to counter pick in that lane. Top lane, well they did pick a top laner. And so the only option that they could have gone for is they could have picked a Malzahar. That was their only. I think that's the only maybe Zyra. Um,
that's fair.
but then you would trade that for Jin and either Miles or Zyber, whatever support you leave up. And honestly, I would rather have like trade the Varus for at the end of the day, it's like okay, we're already gonna. I'm not sure if they banned Zyra in the second ban fit. Wait, what did they do? I need to. They banned Tarek and Zyra. Okay, so they banned Zyra, so, and then we went Misfortune support to counter the Malzahar. So it's really a question of do you prioritize the AD carry or the support more? TSM made the judgment that they thought Varus ADC was far more hype or just more high priority to getting either Zyra or Malzahar, which I think is acceptable. I personally I think it makes a lot of sense. It's not about Keith being a really good Varus. It's just about Varus as a champion just being the complete package and just being the best AD carry in the game right now. Um, I don't think it's really about. It's also like if you give Keith Varus, it does. In my opinion, it's not a very hard champion. I'm still of the opinion it's literally put Edge of Night up, cue the wave, and then just back off.
Yeah.
And it's extremely easy. It's why Edge of Night's being built. It's not even necessarily the stats. It's just the passive is so useful in Varus in particular. Um, so I personally, it's a judgment call by Parf. I don't think it's a terrible one. I have no problem with Varus being first pick. But yeah, that's a really in-depth analysis of that draft. Yeah, let's move on.
Right. So yeah, Var's first pick in both games. In this game one, we'll kind of conglomerate and combine games one and two, so that we can expedite for time. Make sure we have time for our
Yeah.
C9 uh, morning discussion. Acadian went off this game, and I'm really starting to think that. Well, not starting to think. I mean, he's proved it multiple games over and over again. But Acadian is really the real deal in terms of jungle talent. Kantos, he really popped off this game, and his game two wasn't too shabby either. I don't know. What's your opinion on Acadian? Do you think that he's going to be one of those bright stars that flickers out later on, or does Echo Fox have their hands on a really solid, long-lasting jungler here?
Yeah, I guess the real question is he a Dardoch or is he a Reignover? You know, where you have somebody who shines like the sun in his first split, and then kind of stays average or slightly above average at his best in a Dardoch, or do you have a Reignover who comes literally out of nowhere and then just stays pretty much as good as he has been for the most part? So I think that in these games in particular, Acadian was seriously underestimated by TSM. I do not think that they expected the amount of brutality that he would just kind of bring into these games. He went really hard, and he played so comfortably, and that's not generally something you expect from a rookie. You expect a little more reservation or maybe, some nervousness on the stage, but he played without any reservation, without any issues. Acadian has proved to be a really solid jungler overall. So I think his performance in TSM was due to us kind of underestimating him on top of underperforming in terms of Sven. He didn't perform as well as he normally does. But on top of that, I think Acadian has what it takes to be a really good jungler. And I hope to see more consistent play like that throughout his career instead of a, one-hit wonder kind of a thing where he has one really good split and then just kind of drops off there. But I definitely think that it's a much better pickup for Echo Fox than Hard was. I think it's way better.
Oh.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Well, that wasn't hard to beat.
The jokes are real. And yeah, I'd agree. I personally, I'm like a semi fan of Echo Fox. But I hope that Acadian does continue to be a strong jungler, if only to consistently challenge Svenskeren and other junglers to stay on their toes, and that you don't get to relax against any team, and you treat every team like it's a serious match.
I just want to follow up on that really quickly. You guys are like saying, "Oh, he's such a strong jungler." I think he might be. This is a slight overreaction. I think he might be one of the best performing junglers in the history of the NALCS. Echo Fox have the best early game of any team in the league. Their bot lane is Keith and Gate, and their mid lane is Froggen. Those are Froggen's not a bad laner, but he's not a dominant laner. He's never been in his entire career.
Right.
Their bot lane does not have a lot of pressure.
Yeah, it's Keith and Gate.
This guy, not only is he rookie this split, I think he's starting to make like an actual argument for MVP. Like I actually think he can. I mean, 13-1 in 8 Kha'Zix is like in a 30-minute game is an extremely good scoreline. He is. Cause I think he's the best jungler in the league. I don't think there's an argument. I don't think there's anyone can say, "No, this dude's better." This dude is single-handedly carrying this team to being a good fuck. I think Echo Fox is. I'm convinced after this series, Echo Fox is a good team. I don't see unless. And I think it's like 80% Acadian, 20% Froggen. I think Acadian, the first 4 weeks of his play have been by far not only the best of any rookie in the NLCS ever. I think this is more dominant to Darlock by a large margin in his rookie split. I think he's making a case for like he's a rookie that might by the end of the split, if he gets even better, he might be the MVP. I think you can start making the argument. His jungle performances, and this is a stacked jungle league. I think I said earlier in the season, this league is so stacked in junglers, right? When Sunscaren's like a mid-lane jungler, and this league is just like it's got good junglers, and Acadian has I think been objectively the best jungler in the league. And yeah, I'm very much on the Acadian hype train. I think if Echo Fox doesn't become like a top 3 team this split, I really think the top teams like the TSM, the Cloud9, maybe the CLG Immortals a little bit, they need to look into like really breaking the bank on this dude because I think that the way he's playing, I think he can even carry this team to international. This kid, he's like the LeBron James of League of Legends from what I've seen. I think he's phenomenal. I think he's actually like he if he doesn't like crash, which there's a chance, I think he can end up as the greatest North American player of all time. That's a bit of I'm overreacting a little bit, but I think he's shown so far that like he's extremely dominant. I think he's been absolutely phenomenal in almost every way. Like I'm completely on his hype train.
Yeah,
Okay.
and
I
I definitely agree with you. There is something different about the way that he's not only approaching the jungle role, but the way that he's impacting the entire map. I think if you were to transpose him and transplant him rather onto any top team, like even dare I say onto TSM instead of Svenskeren, I think that
yeah,
we would.
I think TSM would be better.
Yeah,
I think
I do.
objectively.
Right. Yeah,
I
I
mean,
do think right now TSM will be better with an Acadian than a Svenskeren. I think Svenskeren has capacity to get back to the Acadian level, but Acadian is the one that's dominating right now, and I don't think anybody can take that away from him. But like you said, Froggen, he had a very solid series on his Corki. Never been a hyper lane dominant player, but he did have some good plays. But for the sake of time, we'll go ahead. I want your MVP picks for games 1 and 2. I feel like I know who Harry's gonna pick, but I'll ask anyway. Harry, who do you have for MVP in Game 1 of the Echo Fox TSM series?
Gate. Just kidding. Acadian. Acadian. Yes, definitely Acadian.
Yeah, no, Kantos, are you on the train too with the Acadian hype?
With 13, 1-8, how can you not? It's really kind of no contest. He absolutely dominated that game. He played so fantastically well, especially against somebody as experienced as Svenskeren. It was really quite a shock. So yeah, definitely Acadian.
Yeah, and who
Yeah, we
thinking
just
for-
love getting fucked by rookie and junglers. Is what I guess. Just our
Yeah,
fetish.
I-
All right,
and I
moving
think
on.
no, I honestly think it's an issue of underestimating those rookie junglers. But another topic for another time. Let's look at game 2. Who do we have for MVP from you guys? And we'll go. We'll
yeah,
go ahead
Acadian.
this time. Yeah, Acadian again.
Actually, no. I'll give it the Frog in this game because he did so much damage. He carried team fights super hard. They really struggled to team fight against him. Acadian's a close second. He didn't have quite as dominant a scoreline. His damage was still pretty good, but even though Sven did give up first blood in a really stupid level, I think it was like a level 3. He red planted into the river, walked into graves and killed himself. I was like, okay, well, that didn't work. But this game was a stomp. We got first tower, and so it fell on Froggen to really carry the late game, and he did. And I think he does deserve the MVP because I think he's the biggest reason they won this game.
I agree. And Kentos, are you of the same mind? Are you still in the Acadian hype train? Froggen, what you thinking?
Well, I definitely want to give a shout out to Keith. Definitely the most underperforming member of Echo Fox up until this point. These 2 games, he played really, really well. It was kind of nice to see some good stuff out of Keith. Sad that it had to be against TSM, but I definitely want to give him a quick shout out and saying that he really stepped up his game, and hopefully he continues to do so, and bring back that. Put that fear back in other 80 carries that he's, going to replace him. But I am going to give it to Froggen, just because he played so well. He played so well in that Corki in both of those games. So yeah, I'm going to give it to Froggen.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I definitely agree. I think Acadian would be my MVP for game 1. He's obviously stolen Harry's heart. So we'll be monitoring Harry's love affair with Acadian's jungle performance over these coming weeks and see if the flame of love remains strong between Harry and that jungle play. And I'd also agree with Froggen for game 2. So now we're going to go ahead and we're going to bring in actually a guest from the C9 Bodied podcast by the name of Havok. If Havok is there, if you can hear us, and go ahead and introduce yourself.
LOL. Well, that's awkward.
just
Someone
a little
messaged
bit.
Havoc. What the fuck? Okay, we can start previewing the game about
Yeah,
him.
so
Someone
Havoc will
messaged
be
him to
dropping
tell
in at
him
some
to
point in time.
hurry up.
He'll be dropping it at some point in time, but he's from the C9 Body podcast, which is the sister podcast to our Just Tilton podcast. They discuss all things C9, just as we discuss all things TSM. And since TSM is going up against C9 Blue and White, as it were.
Actually, let's go over the FlyQuest game and wait for him. That's probably a better idea.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay.
And
FlyQuest.
Yeah, and
where is this?
TSM into FlyQuest, I think it's going to be interesting because I think that if we're gonna discuss TSM taking both these series, they're going to require very different approaches to the game from TSM if they want to win, considering their performances in these games that have truthfully been lackluster. Uh, so, looking at the FlyQuest game, we've got all tech elimination, high Moon balls. Moon's been having a surprisingly solid split. He's obviously had drastic improvement as a jungler. Everybody seems masterminded by High. Um, Elimination's been doing solid. Balls has been solid. I think that FlyQuest has been the team with the most strategic variety, and that's where a lot of their wins are coming from. And I don't know. I'm curious. What do you think, in your opinion, Harry? What do you think it'll take for TSM to win this in terms of not just improvement, but in terms of just outright defeating FlyQuest on Summoner's Rift?
Okay, well, on Summer's Rift, I don't know. I just find that funny. Excuse me.
To the point that it killed him.
Yeah. Oh man, that's random.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway.
Harry died.
Man. So yeah, this game. I think the only way to beat FlyQuest, and I don't think it's likely. I think this is like personally. I think being FlyQuest is less likely to being Cloud9 for various reasons.
Mm-hmm.
But I think we have to like fucking stomp them so hard in the laning phase they don't know like what's up and what's down. like really just completely dominate, and I don't see it happening, but it's the only way. I don't see TSM out macroing FlyQuest. I can't see it. Like I don't think that shot calling is going to be there
Mm-hmm.
in any universe. I don't think there's any amount of improvement. Like I don't see it happening. So the only way TSM wins the series is they draft really lane dominant, and Sven has a really good series, and Bjergsen is able to calm down High.
Yeah.
That's the only way I see this going our way.
And
Honestly.
I think that the shot calling is the kind of linchpin of this upcoming series, and I don't know. What are your thoughts on it, Kantos?
I kind of want to counterpoint that, where I definitely agree we don't really stand. We're not nearly as good as the great shot caller High, but I think that our adaptability as a team is still really good. The thing that made our roster so good in 2016 was that we were not only able to adapt but then act, and that's kind of where Double F shot calling kind of came out here. But you can still see our team's ability to just adapt really well to situations. There have been a lot of games that we've kind of been behind early, or we've been sort of struggling, and we've been like able to find a way to adapt and play to our win condition and turn that around. So I'm really hoping that in these FlyQuest games, even if we may not be able to out shot call or out macro as much, we can kind of adapt our play style in the way that we need to kind of push the advantages where we have them. And that's I think for sure is our individual play is definitely going to be a lot stronger than FlyQuest. So I'm hoping that our adaptability and our ability to do that, along with any improvements we continue to make along the way, we'll be able to push out a win against 2 wins against FlyQuest in that sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I don't know. I think for me personally, I think that this series is going to be a test of our ability to maximize on that adaptability. I think the FlyQuest drafts have been on the better side of good. I don't recall any of the games that I've seen from them really having bad drafts, as it were. And our drafts can be neutral to sometimes questionable. So I think that we are going to have to pick lane dominant. I think that we do have a solid chance of, as Kantos puts it, adapting in the series and adapting to whatever FlyQuest strengths are and being able to counter them. I just don't know that we'll be able to do it rapidly enough to cleanly take these games. I think that I think the most important part of this matchup, honestly, in my personal opinion, is actually going to come from the jungle. Moon has not historically been a solid jungler, but he has looked better on FlyQuest. And I think that this would be Svenskaren's opportunity to suppress Moon as a jungler and kind of remove that strength from FlyQuest, in my personal opinion, and help snowball the map a little bit more. He's been playing Ivern really well, and I think that this will be a chance. I think that the linchpin of this game is going to be the shot calling and whether or not Svenskeren can step up. I think that we can pretty clearly say that the other lane should win the lane matchups, but if Moon is given free reign, then I think that the game will be over before it really starts. So moving on to C9, who is currently the number one team in the league, with good reason too. They've had solid play, all split thus far. Jensen's been looking great. Impact has been very impactful. I had to. I looked for a place. I saw it. I took the chance. I made the shot. You know. But yeah. So I don't know. I'm honestly not nervous about the C9 series because I guess I wouldn't be surprised if we lose it. But I also don't know what it would take to adequately bring down C9 because it seems like they're a real total package kind of team.
Well, I know I was just praising to the heavens the truth of the new NA jungler. I think Contracts, he's been okay. He hasn't been bad by any means. I don't think he's as dominant of jungler as Acadian or Moon in any sense. I think if we had the free trifecta, if someone told me this 3 months ago, I would have called them absolutely insane. Of Moon, Acadian, and Contracts, the trifecta of any junglers. Um, Contracts would probably be like kind of on the weekend of those. Um, and I think that he's on a very strong team right now. He has got very strong laners, um, and he has it. And I don't think he's been as impressive as the other two junglers who have had less impressive lanes and theoretically less to work with and have done more with it. And so I think TSM, if they really target Jensen and Contracts, which some people say like that's their biggest strength, I don't know. It doesn't seem like they're always on the same page in the early game. It has cost them, especially against FlyQuest, some of their early games. And I think that TSM, Svenskeren, and Bjergsen, say what you will about Svenskeren's individual performance so far the split, their synergy is still very on point. And they'll always be coordinating on ganks. They'll always be talking to each other. And if I'm TSM, I'm really, really, I think that's what I go all in on, is saying, okay, the connection between Contracts and Jensen isn't the strongest connection we have since Garen and Bjergsen. So try to out 2v2 them in the mid lane and put Jensen behind. And I think that can really do wonders for TSM if you can put Jensen behind because he's the real star player of Cloud9. He's other than Acadian, he's probably the other MVP candidate right now in the league. And I think if you really are able to shut down Jensen, I think there's a good chance that you can take down Cloud9. That being said, their mid game and late game is very good. They have very good shot calling. Their team fighting is excellent. Um, and so this is another game that I think while TSM's early game hasn't been good, it's been acceptable, and they'll have to really step up their early game in their jungle pathing and they have to come up with very specific. The scouting reports for the enemy junglers I think will be very important this weekend. I think the coaching staff will have a very large influence of the outcome of these games, mainly because I really truly believe that jungle pathing and preparation is what's going to win or lose these games, or have any hope of winning this game or winning these games. We're going to have really really strong preparation.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that the coaching staff is actually a very interesting point. And if we can, if we can, hopefully Havok's audio is on point now. Havok, are you with us now?
All right, can you hear me now?
Yes, there we go.
Hey!
Oh, thank God. Sorry, everybody.
Yeah, so we had a bit of audio
Discord
issues
decided not to work.
Yeah, we had a bit of audio issue in the beginning.
Technical issues, not my fault.
Yeah,
Blame the internet.
But we got him in here now. Havok from the C9 Bodied podcast.
Yes. Hello.
Yeah, so welcome to the Just Tiltum fancast, where you are the enemy, and we want you to tell us why TSM is going to beat C9. But just to kind of bring you into our conversation here, I think we can all unanimously agree, no matter what our fan affiliations are, that TSM has not been performing the way that almost anybody would like them to see. I think that you, as a fan of C9, would probably like to see a TSM or an equivalent to really be like a rival team to C9 in terms of the standings, and we haven't really had that. So I'm curious, what do you think that this upcoming series is a chance for TSM to possibly bounce back? Do you think they'll be bringing their A game? And what are you kind of expecting to see from Cloud9?
Oh, most definitely. I think for sure. Anytime TSM or any of these big teams faces off against like an old school rival, I think they always come to play. Like what we saw with Cloud9 versus CLG a couple weeks ago. CLG looked like pretty bad, but when they came to play, they actually gave us kind of a rough time. In terms of what to expect from play, I think a big aspect is probably going to be shot calling and the pick and bans. Reaper is pretty good at setting these little traps and pick bans and making our draft a little unpredictable. So it's kind of hard to really determine what Cloud9 is really going for in terms of a team comp and what roles they want to pinch. And also just looking at Smoothie, he's been such a big rock for this team. He has been shot calling so well, especially in the mid to late game team fights. He has been performing so well on pretty much anything that you give him, and I think he's been a big reason why Cloud9 has been so successful. As for what TSM could do to beat us, I'd say probably attack in the early game, since, like Harry has said, they are weaker there. So that's what I have to say.
Yeah, and I think that the most interesting part of the C9 match in particular coming into this, and Harry and Kantos, I want to bring you guys in on this conversation too, is gonna be the pick ban. I mean, we're a few episodes in now, and I feel like every episode we're raising questions about TSM's pick bans, or we're commenting on where it can be better. And Havoc, I think you're absolutely right. I think that Reaper is probably one of the most intelligent pick ban coaches we've seen on that stage in North America, period.
Yeah, he's very good at determining what the enemy's team's strengths are and how to isolate the team either away from that or put it in a matchup that's favorable for Jensen, Impact, Contracts, whatever.
Right. And Kantos, I'm wondering, do you think that well, I don't want to turn this into which coach is better, but I don't know that we see that same strength from Parth in terms of trapping the enemy team and pinching their roles and maximizing on the strength of our roles. I feel like we're a bit more meta bound. But do you think that this C9 game is going to be a chance for Parth to maybe break out a bit and try to kind of counterplay Reaper in that pick ban phase?
I love Parth's mind. He is a very good analyst. He understands the game very well. I think where we struggle in that pick ban is that TSM really tries very hard to go for meta champions, and when we go for meta, we kind of lose sight of the comfort, and we try and do a little bit of both. Whereas someone like Reaper really kind of focuses in on not only what's strong, but mostly what's really comfortable. Where C9 is going to succeed the most, in terms of what they personally feel will succeed in their lane, what they personally feel will succeed, in their early game, their mid game, their late game. I think Reaper has a lot more in-depth thinking as when he goes into his pick ban, and I think TSM just kind of tries to grab bag as many of the OP meta champions as we can kind of pull here. So I think it's going to be a challenge for Parth's mind to go up against somebody like Reaper. Reaper has proven himself, like we've constantly said, as a really good pick ban coach. Parth, we've had some issues with pick ban, so we could possibly get dumpstered in pick ban alone, which would really kind of hurt us just starting right off the back there. So we'll see. It's really going to depend. It's going to depend on how well Parth and the team come into this pick ban phase and how they feel about their comps, their drafts, and what they're really looking to play here, and if they can get it.
I just want to ask a Havokpus something, since or Havoc or whatever the hell is it's called Havokpus on Discord.
Yeah, it's Havokpus, like a platypus,
yeah.
But yeah.
Okay, anyway. Alright, point is, so I think I mentioned earlier that you don't think Cloud9's bot lane is as strong as the other lanes. And I didn't really get that feeling from Cloud9. Do you still think that? Do you think that Cloud9 might struggle in the bot lane matchup?
It's not to say that their bot lane is weaker. I mean, when you watch them play in lane, Smoothie and Sneaky look pretty solid and can hold their own for a really long time without really needing jungle assistance. I think more is that the AD carry in bot lane to a lesser extent is kind of a weaker role than the other roles in the game. Right. AD carries don't really have as much agency as mid or top or jungle, and support kind of has to bear some of the issues that AD carry has as well because they're trapped in a lane together. So they're more so just kind of facing all these struggles that the game has kind of presented themselves with, and then I think that makes it harder for even good AD carries like Sneaky or Turtle or I'm trying to think of another good ADC. I can't think of anything.
Apollo.
Altec.
Definitely Apollo.
Arrow, yes.
Yeah.
Apollo, like Apollo,
Oh man.
like Apollo
Apollo.
to really thrive and actually have a decent
Wait,
game.
we're joking. Wait, do you actually, I can't tell. We were just shitting on Apollo earlier.
Yeah,
'Cause of-
yeah. No, that was a bit of a callback in episode.
Wow.
Apollo
Wow.
had what,
So,
what was
to
it,
be
4
clear,
tickets?
we on this podcast we think Apollo is a trash AD carry in general. We should just retire. Anyway,
Let it be known. But okay, yeah. Go ahead and finish what you were saying, Havoc. We were just
No, that was
memeing
about
Okay. So is there anything else we want to cover in this matchup? Any like the Jensen versus Bjergsen matchup? In my opinion,
yeah. I was thinking we could highlight that a little bit.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
That's probably the
probably-
biggest matchup of the day, really.
Yeah, do you think, okay, right now, you need to say it before all the TSM fans listen to this podcast, do you think Jensen's a better mid laner than Bjergsen? Yes or no?
That's hard to say. So Jensen's really good at dominating the mid lane and just just creating this really big advantage through just CSing and harass, while Bjergsen's really good at roaming and playing about the map and getting advantages in other lanes. So it's kind of a this or that. I think that if Jensen really wants to become probably the best mid in North America, he needs to kind of reflect what Bjergsen does and try to roam and create more advantages for his team rather than creating more advantages for himself. So it's kind of a apples and oranges type deal. Their playstyle's a little bit different. I think they're probably the two best mids in North America, though.
yeah. I think that's easily. I don't think there's almost anybody who would debate that they're the two best mids.
Man, I was ready for an argument, but I kind of completely agree. So,
Well, yeah, and I think, I guess to play a bit of devil's advocate, maybe in the other direction, I think that part of the reason they brought Jensen in was because they wanted that lane dominance. Because when High was on C9, you had that map play. You had High would show up in the bot lane because he'd been planning for the past 2 minutes how we're gonna slaughter them on bot lane, push them up to their towers, we'll tower dive and we'll whatever. He wasn't quite as mechanically proficient in the face of someone like Bjergsen. And now it seems like it's kind of a reverse where you have a really mechanically proficient mid laner who can punish the slight overstep and get the CS lead and press the advantage in lane, but he doesn't seem to leave lane all that often. Not that he has necessarily needed to, considering Cloud9's performance, but I don't know. I think I would argue that the style of mid laner that Jensen currently is wouldn't reach that, I guess, transcended level of mid laner where Bjergsen is like idly floating below the fakers and the et cetera, where Bjergsen could possibly reasonably get there with the right practice and or support system, maybe in some weird reality. But I don't know. I mean, it's definitely a debate that kind of goes back and forth. I mean, I've seen plenty of C9 fans like, oh, well, it sucks that Bjergsen's no longer the best mid laner in NA, and I mean, this is the TSM fan cast, so here Bjergsen's the best.
well, yeah, it's hard to defend. I would be on the side of the argument that it depends on the meta. I think it's Surmez. I think last year Bjergsen was just a better mid laner because he had double lift and Biofrost the bot lane and Haunts to the top lane. It's like if I go to armor lanes, it's a win-win. I can, my team is so good, I can go anywhere on the map, and I know I can make plays. And I guess it's not even the meta. It almost depends on the team somewhat. And on this team, I can roam the wild turtles lane and get the Varus ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are a lot of really small factors. Like look at Moon this split versus
Moon
last
every other
year.
split.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Moon on NRG and Team Liquid, he looked really so and really not really impressive. But on
No, he looked
FlyQuest,
terrible.
on FlyQuest, he's just stunning on everybody and just getting kill after kill, and he's looking amazing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I agree.
I said that also. I think High is almost like his cheerleader a little bit, but that only so I think I found myself a cheerleader. That might be the High Moon relationship right now. But yeah, I think that I don't know. Moon always strikes me. We can just a quick, we're playing FlyQuest anyways, like that's kind of topical.
Yeah.
Moon always showed me as a player who had massive confidence issues every time he did an interview. I'm pretty sure his confidence is always something that came up, and whenever he says like, well, what do you think about my performance? It's like, oh, I'm just not confident. I'm not confident making plays. And there was a reason this guy was so hyped in challengers because he can like when he's on challenger team online, it's so different than playing on stage. It's just a completely different game at that point. And I think he had massive confidence issues. And before the season, I was saying to myself, is there's any man who could save this man's career, it's High, because he's gonna give him all the confidence he needs. He's gonna completely trust him, no matter how bad he's playing. And I think High is. I think you have to really think High also for Moon's resurgence. But yeah, okay.
Yeah, and I agree. I think that the value of High as a player, not just in the mid lane, because I mean, what was he, support, and he played jungle for a
Yeah,
bit.
and
Like,
jungle.
yeah,
Like,
he's
what
been
the
everywhere,
hell?
but I think it's just his mind
Just
that enables people to just kind of excel because it takes a bit of the burden of, I don't want to say the burden of knowledge, but honestly, kind of the burden of knowledge off of their shoulders, and they can just do whatever it is that they need to do. And C9 even famously ran into trouble when they stopped having confidence in High and their performance started to falter. I think that was in an interview with Medios and later with High when he retired the first time, where he was saying that his team lost confidence in his calls, and it was reflecting in the way that they were performing on stage. So we're coming kind of to the end here, guys. A bit of a curveball that I want to throw your ways, and this is really just coming from me personally, but in very topical league-related news, we finally have a practice tool so that people can practice outside of going into a solo queue game. But I think more importantly, and Kantos and I were kind of going back and forth with this earlier, I think that it could possibly have an impact on the way that teams set up practice regimens if used correctly. And I'm curious about what your opinions are because I think that the practice tool is going to be one of those things where if a team maximizes on setting up vision within like a certain time frame, they can do so. If a team wants to figure out where they need to be when playing around Baron or Dragon, they can do so. The practice tool kind of facilitates all this. Whereas from our understanding as fans, you would only get that kind of experience in a scrim where you have like a gentleman's agreement with the other team, like, hey, we're gonna farm for 20 minutes, then we'll play around Baron and figure stuff out. So starting with you, Kantos, do you think that the practice tool, or really, do you think that it's gonna alter, I guess, the strategic landscape that teams have available to them, or do you think it's just going to kind of be a throwaway for solo queue players to practice their Riven auto cancels and go from silver 5 to silver 3?
I think it's going to be really good, and we kind of touched on this previously when we were talking about it. It's going to be nice for teams trying to macro and understand, at what point where they should be going in a certain direction or what a certain objective they might be wanting to take. Because if you say, you're 10k ahead or you're 4k ahead or whatever, and you say, okay, now would be a good time for a bot dragon play, and then you kind of figure out, yeah, that isn't the best idea because X reason, Y reason, we might lose this turret, we might do this thing. And if you're doing that in a scrim, it's kind of like, okay, well, experiment over. We have to wait until we get 40 minutes into the next game to try that whatever it is strategy again. With this practice tool, you can kind of just reset the last 10 minutes and kind of just play it out that way. And that's something that we were kind of talking about, that it might be really helpful, not just on an individual mechanical standpoint, but from a team macro standpoint of kind of deciding where their advantages are at a certain point in time, and then you can kind of keep rewinding that and trying different aspects and areas as opposed to just trying to scrim different teams. And you get one bad scrim or your scrim starts going poorly in one direction, it can literally just fall apart, and you just have to chalk it up to a failed scrim and move on. And that kind of sucks in a sense, because you wanted to try your 1-3-1 method, and if you lost in lane because of a mistake and now you're behind, you can't 1-3-1, your whole strategy that you were wanting to perform and were wanting to try out is just a thrown away scrim. So maybe in this practice tool that we'll have more opportunity to try new strategies and let teams try out new things without as many consequences as just straight up scrimming.
Yeah, it seems like Harry, you got a bit of
Okay.
an opinion on
I
that?
got something. I got real quick. I thought practice tool was only used for one person. Am I wrong on
Well,
that?
I've seen an invite option in it. Maybe it hasn't been enabled yet. Um,
Oh, okay.
yeah,
Then okay.
but I
Then
did
well, my mid.
yeah the when I was messing around with it earlier today, I did see an option to invite people into it. I don't know if
Okay,
it's
I might be
enabled
wrong.
currently, but it does seem
Okay.
like something they're at
Um,
least interested in doing.
one interesting thing you might find. I listened to a Moon interview recently, and he actually said he was using the practice tool in the PBE like an hour a day, I think. Which was like that's a lot of time to be just practice using the practice tool an hour a day. Like I'm not even sure what he's doing. I guess he's testing jungle pathing. I don't know, but I think that gives me a little bit of insight. Like yeah, I mean, if he's using it an hour a day, he's wasting time. Well, he's not wasting time. He's using time on it. He's obviously finding some use for it. Um, or he just really likes being really bored. um, so yeah, I think that from the early indications I've gotten, it is useful. I think it's useful for like jungle pathing, for experimenting exactly how much damage you do with X item, or like like this level, this item, this ability rank, all that crap. That pros they kind of have to experiment a little bit and get the feel of. They can quantify it a bit more. I'm sure analysts love this mode because of that, for those reasons too. You can champion. You can calculate it obviously, but there's certain things that make it the practice tool make it a lot easier in that regard. So yeah, I think it's gonna be a useful tool. I'm not sure. It's hard to say if the level of play will go drastically up. I think we'll have to wait for a while. Maybe for splits potentially before we really see. And even then, like, can we say, oh, it's the practice tool? Like,
Right.
so I don't know. It's gonna be something that only I think pros can say, and I think that really anybody else is just speculating because I think only pros will know if it improved it, and maybe an analyst.
Yeah, for sure. And last but not least, Havoc. Do you think that the practice tool will be the key to TSM defeating C9 forevermore?
Exactly.
Uh, I mean, it could be. It does seem like a really interesting thing for maybe testing out, jungle paths and just practicing CS and ability combos and stuff. So I think since it's still kind of in its infancy, kind of like Harry said, we'll have to probably wait maybe a few months to maybe a year or so to see, how effective this tool really is. But I think there could be a lot of good in it. So yeah, I'm all for it.
Yeah, I agree. I'm curious to see how if we're going to see a drastic change in the level of play in the coming weeks. Like you said, I don't think we're going to see
I'm sure Echo Fox loves it.
Oh, I'm sure.
All right, all right. Okay, let's end the show now.
Yeah, a little bit of an internal.
Reggie is calling me right now.
Yeah, but with all that being said, this has been a great conversation. Havoc, thank you so very much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Sorry about the technical difficulties.
Oh, it's no
No
problem.
problem. And I'm sure that we'll have more people from the C9 Body podcast in the future as we discuss more things, TSM versus C9 and TSM and C9. But with
Yeah,
all that
see you in
being
the
said-
finals, kid.
Yeah, exactly. We'll see you in the finals as always. So with all that being said, Harry, Kantos, anything you want to add last minute?
It's a good show, I think.
Good
You
show.
know, pretty okay.
Yeah. Pretty okay. Solid 6 out of 10.
Yeah, I don't know, 6.9 out of 10.
6.9 out of 10. We'll go for the 10 out
The
of 10.
the percentage of damage.
Oh God.
Yeah, it was an up and down weekend. It was nice to have a 2-0 against Envy. Sad to have an 0-2 against Echo Fox. Hopefully, we learned a lot and moved forward. Something else just to kind of throw in here. Upcoming, we have B7 for Samsung, or I'm sorry, for Super Smash Brothers Melee. So Leffen will be in there in the singles. He'll also be playing with Ice for the doubles there, and that'll be happening February 17th through the 19th. So be sure to go support our boy Leffen in that. So yeah, that's it.
All right. With all that being said, thank you so much for tuning in and listening to this week's episode of Just Tiltum. Havoc, thank you once again, and we will talk to you all next week.
Bye.
Thanks for having me. Bye.
Bye.